Hey, how's it going, everybody? We're it feels weird to say this because I feel like I was just doing banlist videos a little while ago. But we are technically in a banlist season right now because the next one is scheduled for, as it says, no sooner than October 1st. At the time of recording this, it is September 9th, so we're a little less than a month away from it. I'm gonna do a larger banlist video as a whole, but I wanted to do a little mini video on these three cards in particular, but of course it's going to focus more so on these two. I see this discussion being had a lot in a lot of other videos on what should happen with the fate of these two cards in particular, Red Eyes Dark Dragoon and Predaplant Verte Anaconda, and then of course Red Eyes Fusion is thrown in there for some reason. We'll get into that. I wanted to take this opportunity just to make a video on this because I could do an entire video on just this topic by itself, which is exactly what I am going to do, rather than trying to fit it all into a banlist video, which would double the amount of time that I would do that in a banlist video. So I guess let's just jump right into it. Where to start? We could start with Dragoon, we could start with Anaconda, and I think we start with Anaconda. Should Anaconda be the, let's say we ignore these two, we keep those two legal, and Anaconda is the hit. If you hit Anaconda, you have to ban it, because most decks are only running one copy each if they are running an Anaconda package, so limiting it does absolutely nothing. Unless you're considering my stupid Gravekeeper Dragoon build where you play 3. We're ignoring that. That's like the only deck that ever does that. But if you hit Anaconda, it has to be a ban, because most decks, if you're running a Dragoon package, only run the one Anaconda, the one Red Eyes Fusion, and the one Dragoon. I'm going to say it straight up. I do not think Anaconda is the problem, and I do not think Anaconda either is going to be banned or should be banned. And here's a few reasons why. First of all, of course, my own personal bias. I am a Cyber Dragon player, and you can, of course, tech in Anaconda to send cards like Overload Fusion to make some of your Cyber Dragon fusions that can help you win the game. There's, of course, my own little bias in there that would, Cyber Dragon is not anywhere in the meta, but they would lose a huge piece of their engine if you hit Anaconda if you did that. So of course there's my own little personal bias. Here's another reason why I do not think it's going to be hit. I don't have a copy of Fusion Destiny, but I'll show this copy of Celestial just to represent that entire engine coming out. The new Destiny Hero Fusion monster coming out, Phoenix Enforcer, I believe it's called. It's a really, really powerful card. It's pretty much on par with Dragoon in some ways. In a lot of ways, Dragoon is better, but it's basically like Dragoon. You can just run you run 1 or 3 copies of the fusion card Fusion Destiny, which obviously it's a fusion card. You can send it off of Verte Anaconda to get that effect. And you can send cards like Celestial and Dasher would be the two that you run for an engine in that. Obviously, Destiny Heroes would probably send a pure Destiny or Hero build would send 2 different ones, but just for generic ones, you would send Celestial and Dasher to be able to get those effects because of what Phoenix Enforcer does. And that's why people are worried about Anaconda still being legal, but that's why I think that they're not going to hit it, because when that set comes out, they want to sell it, and if Anaconda is banned, it's obviously not going to sell as well. And yes, there are instances where Konami would still hit something anyway, but I don't think they're going to, because that'd be the same reason that they would hit Anaconda before Dragoon came out. Remember, Anaconda came out before we got Dragoon. And then Dragoon, we saw what it did in the OCG. It was obviously a little bit different here in the TCG, but they didn't hit Anaconda before Dragoon came out. So I don't think they're going to do the same thing here, because they want to sell that new set. They want to sell Phoenix Enforcer. So I just don't see a way in which they hit Anaconda just because that new thing is coming out. Another reason that I see people wanting Anaconda banned is they think that that's what's keeping other broken fusion monsters from coming back. For example, they think that that's what's limiting Colossus's return, because you can just tech in Thunder packages and just send a Thunder Dragon fusion from the deck to be able to turbo out a Colossus. You do same thing with Dragoon. You combo off, you use 2 extra monsters for Anaconda, you send Thunder Dragon Fusion, and you drop Colossus on the field, and then you have a generic summonable Colossus in any single deck, just like you had with Dragoon. And people are upset with that because there are a bunch of people that want Colossus back. Well, spoiler alert for my banlist video, I used to be of the opinion that maybe Colossus could come back to 1, but I just don't think Colossus would ever be able to come back, at least anytime in the near future, because the argument to have Colossus back is, it's been power crept a little bit, it could come back to maybe 1. Unfortunately, no, because being able to have such a monster that's hard to out and prevents you from searching from the deck. Yes, we have cards like Deck Lockdown that do the same thing, but Deck Lockdown is a lot easier to deal with. Colossus is incredibly hard to out, because in case you forgot the part of the text where it says if it would be destroyed, you can banish a Thunder monster from the graveyard instead. That's incredibly easy to take advantage of, making it a lot harder to out. And then the argument that there's a lot more outs to it in the form of cards like Dark Ruler, Imperm, Droplet, that argument just amounts to, oh yeah, just have the out, man. Like, how many outs do we have to Dragoon, and then Dragoon is still a problem? Yeah, you can Dark Ruler Dragoon, you can Kaiju it, you can Droplet it, you can beat over it in a lot of instances. Dragoon is still a problem. That amounts to just have the out. And as cool as it would be to see Colossus come back, I just don't see a way in which it does, because it's still incredibly oppressive. Like, I'm sorry, we're just not getting it back anytime soon. So, I mean, banning Anaconda so Colossus could come back really doesn't fit into the equation, because I just don't see that happening. So, I really don't think Anaconda is going to be the hit, because at the end of the day, I think Dragoon itself is the problem. I understand the reasons for wanting Anaconda hit, but, I mean, why hit the enabler when you could hit the problem itself? And yes, I know that Phoenix Enforcer could become a problem in the future, and that you think that that's why Colossus can't come back, but no, Dragoon is the problem. And yes, Phoenix Enforcer, when it comes out, may be a problem, but I mean, so has Dragoon, and we're still dealing with that. I mean, worst comes to worst, later on, you just hit Phoenix Enforcer as well. I mean, did anybody think Dragoon was going to be legal forever? It may not be doing anything in the meta, but here we are having these discussions as to what should be hit in Dragoon. And I'm sorry, if you think that Red Ice Fusion is the problem with Dragoon, like just stop and think about that for a second. We're in 2021, and we're considering banning Red Ice Fusion because of one single card. Red Ice Fusion is not the problem. Yes, some people think it should be hit, and then, sorry to Red Ice players for the collateral. We just did the same thing to Cyber Angels because Ben 10 is broken in Drytron. But Red Ice Fusion is not the problem. Yes, it makes it generic, but the restriction on it is so... Just think about it. You cannot normal or special summon when you hard activate this card. Yes, it's enabled through Anaconda, but if there's no Dragoon, who's playing these? The restriction on this card is so heavy, and you would only ever be able to use this in a Red Ice deck if you were to ever play this card at all. This card enables a lot of other decks to do their stuff, like I said with the Cyber Dragon example earlier. These cards mean nothing if this card gets hit. I mean, this one obviously matters later when Phoenix Enforcer comes out later, but I mean, yeah, Phoenix Enforcer can be a lot more generic. Fusion Destiny can be hard activated without the restrictions that Red Ice Fusion has. But in terms of the argument with Dragoon, Dragoon is the issue itself. People who think that Anaconda should be hit forget that Dragoon will be a problem by itself. Like, the restrictions of Red Ice Fusion would be so great that people wouldn't play it anyway. Have you seen the BS that people play with Dragoon? Have you seen my Gravekeeper Dragoon deck? They think that the issue would just be Dragoon itself when you summon it, and all you have to deal with is one Dragoon. Dealing with one Dragoon, yes, is manageable, but the problem that people forget is it's never just one Dragoon. If Dragoon stays legal and you hit Red Ice Fusion or Anaconda, if people want to play Dragoon, they're going to play Dragoon, and it's not just going to be Dragoon. They're going to enable it with a bunch of floodgates. You're going to have to deal with other stuff like a Gozen match, or a There Can Be, or a Summon Limit. The amount of times I've walked by Travis playing a match, and he has both Imperial Order and Macrocosmos flipped. Must be nice, buddy. Throw Dragoon in there. Like, what do? You have Dragoon to protect the Floodgate, and then even if you out the Dragoon, you still have to deal with the Floodgate. And dealing with Dragoon and a Floodgate, I mean, you know, good luck. Plus, they probably have a handful of hand traps anyway. Like, just Dragoon by itself, yes, can be manageable, but it's never just Dragoon. Dragoon is the enabler of all the other BS, because this card is just too powerful for one card. It's not doing anything in the meta, but this just does way too much for one card. Not to mention, people think that Dragoon is probably going to stay around for the Dark Magician support coming out. Dark Magician was never really going to be in meta contention, even with Dragoon anyway. Yes, it can abuse Dragoon way more with the support they're about to get, because the support they're going to get is pretty good. But I don't think it's going to push them into meta contention. Yes, it's going to suck that they're going to lose a boss monster, but we've established that Dragoon is incredibly generic, that can be abused by everybody, and that it is the problem. Take away Anaconda and Red Eyes Fusion, people are still going to abuse this. If they want to abuse a Dragoon deck, I mean, what are meta decks doing right now anyway? Yeah, there's some versions of Drytron that run Dragoon, but you see a lot of them dropping that just to go with IP Masquerena into Unicorn into Access Kotalker, because, I mean, that version, yeah, Dragoon is a really, really good card, and it's cool to play it in Drytron to be able to use that. I do think that that's better than IP Masquerena into Unicorn. But when you play the Dragoon version of Drytron, you have to run 3 bricks. And for a meta deck, like, I do think that Drytron is the best deck of the format. For the best deck of the format, you can't really afford to run 3 bricks like that do you nothing. You know, if you draw Red Eyes or Dark Magician in a Drytron hand, that doesn't really do you anything. And then, of course, if you draw Red Eyes Fusion, your end combo is just dead. Your turn becomes Red Eyes Fusion or pass if you can't end on Ultimateness. The problem is Dragoon. These cards do nothing, and you know, rip to Dark Magician decks. But I mean, this card just does way too much for one card. I know people think that this can be the problem. I've seen a lot of arguments as to why Anaconda should be hit, but I don't think it's going to be hit because they want to sell the new set. I'm sorry if you think that Colossus could come back if they hit Anaconda so that people wouldn't run generic Colossus packages, but I'm sorry. The problem is Dragoon. I mean, if you have other such reasons that I haven't covered as to why you think that Anaconda should be hit or Red Eyes Fusion should be hit instead of Dragoon, feel free to comment it down below, because I am interested in some of the arguments that I hear. But a lot of the arguments I hear basically just boil down to, oh, it's the enabler. If people want to abuse Dragoon, they're going to abuse Dragoon. Like, it's never going to just be Dragoon if you want to play Dragoon. You know, have fun dealing with Dragoon's summon limit if we keep this card legal. Sure, there's a lot of outs to it, but that argument's just, oh yeah, just have the out, man. The same thing would be with Colossus. If we allowed Colossus back because we kept Anaconda legal and then they brought Colossus back, that would also just boil down to, oh yeah, man, just have the out. It's the same problems. Dragoon is just the biggest problem of this entire thing, because it's just too much for one card. I mean, consider these enablers as much as you want, but I mean, when this is the one card that's enabling these the most right now. What does Red Eyes Fusion do without Dragoon in the picture? What does Anaconda do right now without Dragoon in the picture? We'll cross the bridge of Phoenix Enforcer when we come to it. And I'm sorry, Colossus is staying banned. It does too much for it's same as Dragoon. It does too much for one card. It protects itself, and it's an anti-search floodgate. But if you've got any other thoughts about that, comment it down below, because I am interested in what a lot of people think about this. I'll do a more broad ban list video later on, but I just wanted to have this Dragoon discussion because as you just saw, I can make an entire video out of it, and I didn't want to bog you down with the entire Anaconda Red Eyes Fusion Dragoon discussion in a later banlist video. So that's about all I got for you. Post your thoughts down below, and yeah, we'll just see what happens on the ban list. I think Dragoon is the problem, and it should be banned. These aren't the problems. That's about it. Have a good rest of the day.